The bold and the beautiful has always thrived on the dangerous space where love, ambition, and fear intersect, and the week of January 5th to January 9th pushes that space to its breaking point. What unfolds during these days is not a collection of isolated moments, but a tightly woven emotional storm in which every character's private desire threatens to become public catastrophe. Romance blooms at the very moment old traumas resurface, and hope rises just as dread tightens its grip. The stories of Steffy Forrester Finnegan, Taylor Hayes, Deacon Sharp, Sheila Sharp, Carter Walton, Daphne Rose, Katie Logan Spencer, and Brooke Logan Forrester do not simply run alongside one another. They collide, each amplifying the tension of the next, creating a week where no choice feels safe and no emotion can be contained without cost. At the emotional center of the week stands Steffy Forrester Finnegan, whose fury is fueled not by jealousy or pride, but by terror sharpened through years of lived experience. When Steffy discovers that her mother, Taylor Hayes, has developed feelings for Deacon Sharp, her reaction is immediate and volcanic. Yet beneath the anger lies something far more unsettling, the certainty that history is about to repeat itself in the worst possible way. Steffy has spent her adult life navigating the fallout of Sheila Sharp's instability, watching as lives were endangered and families torn apart by one woman's obsession. To Steffy, Taylor's emotional misstep is not a private lapse in judgment. It is a spark thrown onto a field soaked in gasoline. Her rage, therefore, is inseparable from fear, the kind of fear that grips the chest and refuses to loosen its hold. Taylor Hayes, meanwhile, stands at the most precarious crossroads of her life. As a psychiatrist, she has built her identity on boundaries, ethics, and emotional discipline. She has counseled others against exactly the kind of emotional entanglement she now finds herself unable to deny. Her feelings for Deacon Sharp did not erupt suddenly. They crept in through shared vulnerability, through moments of understanding that felt safe because they were cloaked in professionalism. Taylor's internal conflict is brutal in its irony. She knows precisely why her feelings are dangerous, yet knowledge alone does not extinguish them. Instead, it sharpens her guilt, forcing her to confront the gap between who she believes herself to be and who she is becoming. Deacon Sharp is not blind to the danger either. His growing closeness to Taylor is shadowed by the looming presence of Sheila Sharp, a presence that exists even when she is not physically in the room. Deacon understands better than anyone how Sheila interprets threat and betrayal, and how quickly her emotional volatility can spiral into destruction. His concern is not merely self-preservation. It is the awareness that Taylor, for all her strength and intelligence, underestimates the depth of Sheila's obsession. Deacon's feelings for Taylor place him in a moral bind, torn between the solace he finds in her presence and the knowledge that pursuing anything further could unleash consequences neither of them could control. Sheila Sharp herself remains the unspoken axis around which this entire conflict turns. Even in absence, she dominates the emotional landscape, a reminder that some dangers do not fade with time, but merely wait for the right provocation. To Sheila, Taylor represents not just a rival, but an existential threat, someone she perceives as capable of taking away the fragile stability she believes she has secured. The fear Steffy carries is rooted in the certainty that if Sheila senses betrayal, her response will not be measured or rational. It will be absolute. This is why Steffy's confrontation with Taylor is so raw and unfiltered. She is not simply a daughter scolding a mother. She is a survivor trying to prevent another catastrophe before it begins. While this emotional crisis simmers on one side of Los Angeles, a very different yet equally intense drama unfolds in the Forrester showroom, where Carter Walton and Daphne Rose stand on the edge of a life-altering decision. The weekly promotional video captures a moment heavy with symbolism, Daphne threatening to walk away just as Carter kneels before her. This juxtaposition encapsulates the core tension of their relationship. Daphne's instinct to flee is not born of indifference, but of fear. She has come to realize how deeply she loves Carter, and that realization terrifies her. Loving someone this completely means risking devastation if it all falls apart. For Daphne, distance feels like control, like a way to protect herself from a future that could shatter her. Carter Walton, however, refuses to allow fear to dictate the narrative of their relationship. His declaration that Daphne has not pushed him away is more than reassurance. It is a statement of resolve. Carter is a man who has known ambition, disappointment, and restraint, and in Daphne he believes he has found something rare and worth fighting for. When he prepares to propose, it is not an impulsive gesture driven by panic, but a deliberate act of courage. By kneeling before Daphne, Carter is choosing vulnerability, choosing to stake his heart on the belief that love is worth the risk it demands. Daphne's shock in that moment is layered and profound. The question she asks, wondering what Carter is doing, reflects not confusion, but emotional overload. She is confronted with the future she has been too afraid to name, now laid bare before her. Carter's confession of love forces Daphne to face a truth she has been avoiding. That safety does not come from running away, but from choosing to stand still and accept what is being offered. The confirmation that Daphne will indeed marry Carter transforms this moment from romantic surprise into a defining turning point, signaling the beginning of a shared life even as uncertainty lingers at the edges. This engagement, while joyful, does not exist in isolation. It unfolds against a backdrop of instability and looming conflict, reminding viewers that happiness in this world is never untouched by threat. Carter and Daphne's love story represents hope, yet it also highlights the fragility of that hope in an environment where secrets, rivalries, and unresolved traumas constantly threaten to intrude. Their impending marriage suggests the possibility of a new chapter, but it also raises questions about how love can survive in a landscape so often shaped by chaos. As these personal dramas intensify, another battle quietly gains momentum at Il Giardino, where Katie Logan Spencer meets with Deke Sharp. This encounter is not merely a business discussion. It is a convergence of ambition, insecurity, and sibling rivalry. Katie's desire to launch her own fashion brand is fueled by more than creative aspiration. It is a bid for validation, a determination to prove that she is not living in the shadow of her sister, Brooke Logan Forrester. By offering to help Deke achieve his dream of becoming a fashion designer, Katie positions herself as both patron and partner, hoping that his talent will become the cornerstone of her success. In return, Katie hopes Deke can help her prove Brooke wrong. Brooke's warning that Katie may fail cuts deeper than any external criticism could. It touches a lifelong wound, a pattern in which Brooke's confidence and dominance have often eclipsed Katie's quieter strength. Katie's resolve to succeed is therefore intensely personal. Every challenge she faces on the path to building her brand becomes a test of her self-worth. Every setback a reminder of the doubt she has struggled to overcome. Brooke Logan Forrester, for her part, is not motivated by malice, but by a belief in realism shaped by decades in the fashion industry. She understands how unforgiving the world of fashion can be, how talent alone does not guarantee survival. Her warning to Katie reflects concern as much as skepticism, yet the impact remains the same. It reinforces the divide between the sisters, turning professional ambition into an emotional battleground. Brooke's confidence in her own vision contrasts sharply with Katie's hunger to prove herself, creating a dynamic in which every success or failure carries symbolic weight. Katie's journey toward establishing her fashion brand is marked by obstacles that test her resilience. Building a team, securing credibility, and navigating an industry dominated by powerful names require not just determination, but strategic cunning. Katie's willingness to do whatever it takes to succeed signals a shift in her character, revealing a steeliness that has often been underestimated. Her hope for good news becomes more than a wish for professional progress. It becomes a plea for affirmation that she belongs in this world on her own terms. Taken together, these storylines form a tapestry of emotional extremes. Steffi's rage and fear, Taylor's guilt and longing, Deacon's caution and desire, Sheila's ever-present threat, Carter's devotion, Daphne's hesitation, Katie's ambition, and Brooke's skepticism all intersect to create a week defined by high stakes and fragile balances. Each character is driven by deeply human motivations: the need to protect loved ones, the yearning for connection, the hunger for recognition, and the fear of repeating past mistakes. What makes this week particularly compelling is the way hope and danger coexist within the same moments. Carter's proposal shines with optimism even as Taylor's storyline darkens with foreboding. Katie's dreams take shape while Steffi braces for disaster. This contrast underscores one of the enduring truths of The Bold and the Beautiful, that joy and terror are often separated by the thinnest of lines. Love can heal, but it can also provoke. Ambition can empower, but it can also divide. And fear, when ignored, has a way of manifesting in the most destructive forms. As the week of January 5th to January 9th unfolds, viewers are invited to witness not just dramatic events, but emotional reckonings. Characters are forced to confront who they are when stripped of pretense, to decide whether they will be guided by courage or controlled by fear. The consequences of these decisions will ripple outward, shaping relationships and redefining alliances long after the week comes to an end. In this world, no emotion exists in isolation, and every choice carries the weight of what has come before and what may yet follow. The Bold and the Beautiful has always drawn its greatest strength from the uncomfortable truth that family is rarely a place of pure safety. It is a battlefield disguised as home, a space where old wounds never fully close and where love and resentment are often indistinguishable. The recent revelations surrounding Brooke Logan Forrester, Ridge Forrester, and Katie Logan Spencer do not introduce a new kind of conflict so much as they peel back the layers of one that has existed for decades, waiting for the right spark to ignite it again. At first glance, Brooke's decision to repeat Katie's words to Ridge may appear petty, even immature, an act easily dismissed as tattling. Yet to reduce it to that label alone is to miss the deeper emotional machinery at work, the long history of power, jealousy, and unspoken competition that has always defined the Logan sisters and their uneasy connection to the Forrester empire. To understand whether Brooke's reaction truly constitutes tattling, one must look beyond the surface of the argument and examine the emotional hierarchy that governs her relationships. Brooke did not simply relay gossip to Ridge for the thrill of it. She reacted to what she perceived as a challenge to her authority, not only within the Logan family, but within the broader ecosystem of fashion, legacy, and influence that surrounds Forrester Creations. When Katie expressed her intention to use the Logan name for a fashion brand funded by Bill Spencer, Brooke heard more than a business decision. She heard defiance. She heard a refusal to accept what Brooke believed was an unspoken rule, that the Logan name, as a symbol, remained closely tied to her own identity and her long, turbulent history with the Forrester family. Katie's decision to move forward with the Logan name did not emerge from a vacuum. It was born from a calculated understanding of branding, marketing, and the psychology of recognition. Katie was not trying to provoke her sister. She was trying to build something credible in an industry that devours newcomers without hesitation. In fashion, names matter. They carry weight, familiarity, and promise. Forrester Creations itself stands as proof of this principle. It is not a single person's name, but a legacy brand, a word that evokes tradition, craftsmanship, and dominance. Katie understood that simplicity and resonance often matter more than personal symbolism. The Logan name, in her mind, was not Brooke's possession. It was a shared legacy, one that could be leveraged intelligently rather than emotionally. Brooke, however, did not approach the issue from a marketing perspective. Her response was shaped by memory and ego, by years of being both elevated and vilified under the Logan name. To Brooke, Katie's choice felt less like strategy and more like appropriation, a deliberate echo of her own path and her own power. When Brooke told Katie that she could not use the Logan name, her tone was not that of a concerned sister offering advice, but of someone issuing an order. This dynamic revealed itself immediately in Katie's reaction. The conversation at Spencer Publications did not escalate because of branding alone, but because Brooke assumed compliance. She spoke as though her authority were unquestionable, as though her younger sister were a subordinate rather than an equal. The Logan sisters have always carried the weight of a deeply asymmetrical relationship. Brooke, as the eldest, has long occupied the role of the trailblazer, the one whose choices reshaped not only her own life, but the fortunes of everyone around her. Katie has lived in the shadow of that influence, often supportive, sometimes resentful, always aware that Brooke's presence could eclipse her own ambitions. When Katie confronted Brooke with her past behavior, she was not dredging up history for the sake of cruelty. She was articulating a truth that had been building inside her for years, that Brooke's confidence often crossed the line into dominance. And that dominance had shaped Katie's sense of self more than she cared to admit. Brooke's decision to bring Ridge into the conflict cannot be separated from her need for validation. Ridge Forrester has long functioned as both partner and mirror to Brooke's identity. His agreement reinforces her belief that she is right, that her instincts are justified. By telling Ridge what Katie had said, Brooke was not merely tattling. She was seeking reinforcement of her authority, hoping Ridge's support would transform a personal grievance into a shared stance. Ridge's reaction, shaped by his own history with the Logans and the Spencers, only deepened the divide. His support of Brooke, described by some as blind, effectively stripped Katie of any remaining sense that her perspective might be heard or respected. This is where the conflict evolves from a sibling argument into a full-fledged family war. Had Brooke paused, had she questioned her own assumptions, the situation might have de-escalated. Instead, her anger hardened into certainty. By framing the issue as personal rather than professional, Brooke inadvertently handed Katie a powerful weapon. If Brooke insisted on making it personal, then Katie could do the same, transforming a branding dispute into a declaration of independence. In doing so, Katie positioned herself not as a challenger to Brooke's authority, but as someone finally willing to step out from under it. The irony is that Brooke's interpretation of Katie's motives may reveal more about Brooke than about Katie. Brooke's belief that Katie's choice was rooted in jealousy speaks to her own unresolved insecurities. Brooke has always been acutely aware of how others perceive her, of the admiration and envy her life has inspired. To assume jealousy as Katie's driving force is to center herself in the narrative, to believe that any significant decision involving the Logan name must, by necessity, be about her. This perspective blinds Brooke to the possibility that Katie's ambition exists independently, that her desire to succeed is not a reflection of rivalry, but of self-worth. The revival of the Forrester-Logan conflict could not come at a more thematically potent moment for the show. After the long, dark, and psychologically intense storyline involving Luna Nozawa, the return to fashion-based warfare feels both nostalgic and necessary. Fashion has always been the beating heart of this series, the arena where personal vendettas become public spectacles. By recentering the narrative on branding, legacy, and creative control, the show reconnects with its foundational strengths while allowing character dynamics to evolve organically. The tension between Brooke and Katie is not a regression, but a reminder that unresolved conflicts do not disappear, they wait. Ridge Forrester, meanwhile, finds himself pulled into many directions at once. His recent conflict with his father, Eric Forrester, has already demanded emotional energy and moral clarity. Eric's misunderstanding of Ridge's intentions reopened old wounds, forcing Ridge to confront the delicate balance between respect and responsibility. Both Ridge and Brooke believe that Eric's continued involvement in Forrester Creations poses a risk, not just to the company, but to Eric's health. Their concern is not unfounded. Eric's legacy is unquestionable, but time has a way of transforming strength into vulnerability and denial into danger. Yet Ridge's tendency to insert himself into the Logan sisters' dispute threatens to dilute his focus. The business of Forrester Creations requires steady leadership, especially in a climate where internal divisions can be exploited by rivals. Ridge's alignment with Brooke in this conflict may feel natural, even instinctive, but it also reinforces a pattern in which personal loyalty overrides strategic thinking. By siding so decisively with Brooke, Ridge risks alienating Katie at a moment when unity could have served the company better than dominance. What makes this storyline particularly compelling is its layered interconnectivity. The conflict between Brooke and Katie is not isolated from Ridge's relationship with Eric, nor from the broader tension between the Forrester, Logan, and Spencer families. These are not parallel stories, but intersecting ones, each amplifying the stakes of the others. Bill Spencer's role as the financier of Katie's brand adds another dimension, reactivating old rivalries and power struggles. Bill's influence has always been disruptive, a force that complicates loyalties and reshapes alliances. His involvement ensures that this conflict will not remain contained within the Logan family, but will ripple outward, affecting corporate strategy and personal relationships alike. In this sense, the writer's decision to refocus on fashion and family warfare feels not only deliberate but inspired. It honors the show's history while acknowledging its capacity for reinvention. The battle lines may look familiar, but the emotional terrain has shifted. Katie is no longer content to play the supporting role, and Brooke is no longer unchallenged in her authority. Ridge, caught between generations and responsibilities, must decide whether he will lead with foresight or reflex. At its core, this storyline asks a deceptively simple question: who gets to define legacy? Is it the one who built it, the one who carried it, or the one who dares to reinterpret it? Brooke believes the Logan name is inseparable from her own journey, from the sacrifices and scandals that shaped her rise. Katie believes that legacy is not ownership, but opportunity, something that can be shared, reshaped, and expanded. Neither perspective is entirely wrong, which is what makes their conflict so enduring and so painful. As the Forrester-Logan-Spencer triangle tightens once again, the audience is reminded why this series has endured for so long. It understands that drama does not require constant novelty, only emotional honesty. By revisiting old wounds with new context, the show allows its characters to evolve without erasing their pasts. Brooke and Katie's clash is not just about a name. It is about recognition, respect, and the courage to redefine oneself within a family that resists change. Ridge Forrester would do well to remember that leadership demands more than loyalty. It demands perspective. As he navigates his obligations to his father, his wife, and the company that bears his family's name, Ridge stands at a crossroads not unlike the one facing the Logan sisters. The choices he makes now will shape not only the future of Forrester Creations, but the emotional architecture of the families bound to it. In the end, this renewed conflict is less a regression than a reckoning. It forces every character involved to confront who they have been, who they are, and who they wish to become. And in that confrontation lies the true power of the bold and the beautiful, its ability to transform long-standing history into fresh, emotionally charged storytelling that feels both familiar and urgently alive.